Okay, test. I got sick of making YouTube videos. Kind of sitting down and doing gaming commentary, talking about things I didn't really want to talk about 100% of the time, and that's not good. And I told myself once I get to like 500, maybe 1,000 subs, then I'll do what I'm doing now, show my face. But I couldn't wait. I just got sick of that. And I figured, why do YouTube at all if I'm not enjoying what I'm making? It's not what I set out to do. This is. But I guess it's more of a test to make sure that I'm actually ready for this kind of thing. I'm really not used to this. But here we go. A few days ago, Nintendo held its latest Direct, a sort of conference live stream talking about what's to come for their new console, that being the Switch 2. It went over all of its new features, revealed a ton of brand new games, but was met with a lot of controversy. Now, Nintendo has had some pretty controversial reveals before, kind of like when the GameCube was revealed, showing this dark and gritty version of Zelda that fans have been hoping for, only then to release Wind Waker. The difference this time was how conflicting it is for Nintendo fans. On one hand, we had some crazy reveals. The two things people did not expect from this Direct, we got. Kinda. But at the same time, after learning about the pricing of this console and the games that come with it, had people outraged. And a few other aspects as well made this very polarizing Nintendo Direct. Before I get into the controversy, I'll go into the pros of the Switch 2 and what we saw from the Direct. First, the screen is finally 1080p, and that's just the built-in one. When in the dock and connected to a TV, it can support up to 4K. The Joy-Cons connect with magnets instead of rails, which I really prefer. Every Switch 1 Joy-Con that I ever bought had some issues with connections at some point. They felt quite cheap as well, so I'm glad to see some improvements here. They added a new C button, which is for chat, and they implemented like a Discord-like system. It comes with this little camera as well, which really reminds me of like the Kinect, or like that PlayStation version of, did they have one of those? I don't know. Anyway, it allows you to talk to your friends through Nintendo Switch Online. You can share your screen in whatever game you're playing, but it does cost money. I think it's like 20 bucks a year, which isn't bad, but still, it's kind of annoying that you have a button on your system that you can't actually use unless you pay for it. The Joy-Cons also now have mouse controls, which is cool, I guess. It'll be interesting to see how they utilize it with future games. And obviously, the Switch 2 is more powerful, being able to run games at 4K 60, as well as 1080p up to 120 FPS, depending on the game. Speaking of, games were the most exciting part of this Direct. First one announced was Mario Kart World, which, as you would guess, is just an open world version of Mario Kart. It comes with a variety of new modes. Of course, you have the classic Grand Prix, but you also now have like this kind of Battle Royale-like mode where you go on one track across the map going through several different cities, and if you're not at a certain place by a certain checkpoint, then you are eliminated. You can also free roam around either by yourself or with friends. Also, we're finally getting an open world Donkey Kong game, Donkey Kong Bonanza, which looks cool. It features destructible environments, very destructible environments at that, which is really cool and is something that we do not see in enough games, and is something I don't think I've ever seen in a Nintendo game. I'm excited for that. Third-party games were also a big talking point, arguably the biggest talking point to come directly from this Direct, just to name a few. Elden Ring, Cyberpunk 2077, Hitman, World of Assassinations, Hades 2, Street Fighter 6, Split Fiction, Madden, Hogwarts Legacy, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 with a SpongeBob map, Yakuza 0, and a new James Bond game. What? The upcoming Borderlands 4, Civilization 7, and WWE and NBA 2K. But remember the two things I said nobody expected from this Direct? Hollow Knight Silksong got a short 4-second teaser revealing that the game will in fact come out this year, and the reactions to this announcement were hilarious. My favorite being Jacksepticeye's.
I am so ready for Silksong to get announced. I am ready. No. What? What? What?
But the other announcement is arguably just as exciting.
I don't know who that is. Bloodborne 2.
I give you my blood.
Dude! Dude! What is happening? The Duskbloods?
Okay, so it's not technically Bloodborne 2, but come on, it is damn close. Duskbloods, if you want to call it that, will be a Switch 2 exclusive coming out in 2026. Nintendo, with all of these releases and newfound third-party support, have managed to offer games to all kinds of audiences. From casuals to hardcore gamers, everybody can find something to be excited about. Thank you, Nintendo. Fuck you, Nintendo. Yeah, this is where we get into the cons. And while there are fewer cons than pros from this announcement, the cons are pretty big ones. Of course, I'm talking about price: $450 for the base Switch 2 and $500 for the Mario Kart World bundle, which is steep. Quite steep, and not worth it, in my opinion. Especially when you consider the fact that you can get a base model Steam Deck for the same price, even cheaper from some places. And I have yet to talk about the price of the games. For Mario Kart World, $80 for the digital version, $90 for the physical. Now, it is important to note that this is just for Mario Kart World so far. As far as I know, no other prices have been confirmed. But with the increasing price of video games, a variety of consoles over the years, I fear this trend will only get worse. It's especially bad with Nintendo, given that they never lower the prices of their games. Breath of the Wild is currently at the same price as when it launched. Same goes for Super Mario Odyssey and other Switch games that are now old enough to attend 2nd grade.
Have a good day at school, bud.
But that's not all. If you've been keeping up with the current tariff situation, then this might not come as a surprise to you, but it is affecting the Switch 2 release, at least according to Nintendo. Pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will not start until April 9th, 2025, in order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions. Nintendo will update timing at a later date. The launch date of June 5, 2025 is unchanged, according to Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser. Yes, that's his real name, and I love it.
Hi. Quick editing note here.
Hi, second editor's note. I forgot to plug in my microphone before I started recording this part, and it's late, and I don't feel like re-recording the entire thing. So, you're gonna have to deal with kind of crappy audio for a minute.
I forgot to include, while I was recording, why the tariffs were relevant to the pricing of the Switch 2, and using my expert research skills, also Twitter, I was able to find some pretty shocking news. And again, this is Twitter, so take it with a grain of salt, but here's a headline. Industry analysts now predicting massive post-tariff price hike on Switch 2, $540 for the console, $600 for the Mario Kart bundle. That's crazy. And it gets worse than that. I don't know if this has to do with the tariff thing. I'm assuming not, unless Norway is having some issues too. Yeah, the Switch 2 with the Mario Kart bundle looks like it's going to cost $7,449, whatever currency that is, but converted to USD, that's $700. And Mario Kart alone being $102. Rest in peace, my Norwegian brothers. I guess, I don't know, I'm sorry, that sucks.
But remember that $90 price for physical games? Yeah, about that. Most physical games are stored on the disc or cartridge. Traditionally, the full game, with all of its assets and everything, stored on the disc. And until now at Nintendo, that has remained the case. Well, Nintendo has announced that some physical games come with a download key, where the cartridge simply allows you to download the game off of the internet, just like you would digitally. The game is not stored on the cartridge. And this has been a big point of discussion online as well, and understandably. However, I think it might be more so a fault of developers trying to cut costs, more so than Nintendo. The only games that are confirmed to do the game key thing are Street Fighter 6 and like some DS game remake. You know how I know it's developers just trying to cut costs? CD Projekt Red, the absolute legends that they are, managed to store their entire game, Cyberpunk 2077, on that tiny 64 gig cartridge. You cannot convince me that Street Fighter and some decade-old DS game can't fit on a cartridge, but Cyberpunk can. And while I don't think this is necessarily Nintendo's fault, the fact that they're allowing and encouraging these studios to take steps towards a digital future, as much as I don't want to embrace that digital-only future, someday soon, I might not have a choice. But if I were willing, and I had the money to buy a Switch 2, probably just spend it on a Steam Deck. While the extra storage may cost a bit extra, the amazing deals that Steam offers will save you way more money in the long run than the absurd $80 prices that Nintendo is pushing. Plus, while Nintendo charges you monthly to play their older titles, you can emulate them completely for free on a Steam Deck, or literally any other portable console in that price range. And you can actually have the game stored on your system rather than having it ripped away from you when you don't pay up every 30 days. Look, I understand I might be a little bit harsh on Nintendo, but I cannot describe how excited I was during the Nintendo Direct. It felt like Nintendo was finally offering some competitive advantage over Sony and Microsoft, featuring great third-party support on top of their already enticing exclusive franchises. But Nintendo just had to sour that experience with their egregious pricing. So yeah, I probably won't be picking up a Nintendo Switch 2 anytime soon. I might consider it when Bloodborne 2 finally comes around, but until then, Mario Kart 8 will certainly suffice. But if the Nintendo Switch 2 seems worth it to you, then great. At the end of the day, what really matters is the quality of games and the fun you have in them. And if there's anything I can credit Nintendo for, it's their consistently fun games. And I'd be lying if I said the Nintendo Switch 2 didn't still excite me a little bit. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. Any regular viewers of my channel, what did you think of this new format of video? Should I stick to this or go back to gameplay? Let me know down below. But as always, thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.